Hello, welcome to Sinner Saint Sister. On Sinner Saint Sister, we might laugh or cry, we might get angry or motivated, we might grieve or celebrate, and sometimes all of those things can happen in the very same episode. We are a community of spiritual searchers who embrace Jesus' example of making a beeline to the hurting. Whether an episode is spiritual in nature, purely educational, or just for fun, my hope is that you finish the episode feeling hopeful. I hope you hear something today that lets you know you are loved and helps you love one another. Welcome to Sinner Saint Sister. Not everyone grows up with the joy of sex as their coffee table book, but those of us who do, well, we've got stories. And the thing about growing up with kind of wacky parents is that kind of wacky things happen. Maybe this is why I crave story and adventure the way that I do. I'm an only child to two people who could best be described as a mixture between Sonny and Cher and the Fockers. If Sonny and Cher and the Fockers were to have a baby, it would be my parents. And if my parents were to have a baby, it would be me. Our house was this bustling coming and going of strangers and friends and strays. They would lean into our conversations and wonder if, were they scripted? My life has been interesting. And I'm certain it started that one time my mom showed up to my 5th grade birthday party at the roller rink in her vintage prom dress. She hardly ever wears her tiara anymore. I still have so much to learn, but I know that my colorful upbringing has caused me to commit to a radical kind of spunk and astuteness to the beauty of this world. I'm grateful. I have insisted on leaving a world where miracles are missed and comfort is crowned, and embraced one where there is daring adventure and mesmerizing beauty everywhere. Teaching led to traveling, and traveling led to collecting stories. And stories led to storytelling, and storytelling led to writing, and writing has led to speaking, and speaking has led to podcasting. And podcasting in particular, well, it makes me feel like I've caught my stride. Each episode of Sinner Saint Sister, it's a celebration of how women have lived life deeply. We gather together and tell the details of our lives and hope to bring people along as we do. These conversations, they bring clarity to my life. And none of it is exactly easy for me. But somehow, no matter how daunting the next challenge might seem, I tend to jump in head first without spending too much time preparing for it, because I know that I have a story to tell. I have something to offer this world. Maybe it's fortitude. Maybe it's foolishness. Heck, maybe it's arrogance. But not just everyone grows up with the joy of sex as their coffee table book. My guest today is comedian Kristina Hart. I cannot wait for you to delight in her goodness. She is all of the things that make the perfect guest. Thoughtful, vulnerable, opinionated, deep, and tough. Because you know how the saying goes. What doesn't kill you makes you funny. Hello, Kristina. I am so glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here.
It's so great. I'm a new follow, and you absolutely crack me up. And the thing about laughter is that it's really healing for me. Like, I don't even know if you can laugh and be mad at the same time. Is that even possible? But then when laughing is done in a group, it becomes like this bonding agent. Like, it's so solidifying. And so not only are you hilarious, but I feel like what you're doing is so important. And it is such an honor to have you here and get to know you a little bit. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm so excited. I also think you're hilarious and your family. So I'm glad to be here.
Well, thank you. So I've gotten just the tiniest little glimpses, Kristina, into how you grew up, but I think that's going to require some more information. So can you give us just an overview, with like a strong highlighter over the absurd parts of your life and growing up?
Definitely. I had an interesting childhood. So my parents are both immigrants from Iran, which is Iran if you're in the South. No problem there. So my mom was Muslim and she converted to Protestant Christianity through the televangelist Benny Hinn. So I used to go to Benny Hinn crusades with my mom as mother-daughter dates. Very Protestant, kind of charismatic church life. And then my dad is a Buddhist scientist. So I had kind of these two very strong extreme sides. But I loved my church life. I was a very like active kid. And I was just telling my dad this, that I was not raised in like a suppressed kind of church environment, which I actually am grateful for.
Yeah.
And then I was born in Los Angeles, raised in Princeton, New Jersey. And then I moved back to California and went to school at UC Santa Barbara. And that's how that journey started.
Now, I feel like you can't just say, I grew up going to Benny Hinn, not Hill. Those are both famous people. Yes?
Yeah, they are.
Okay. So Benny Hinn, like conferences, we can't just slide right past that, Kristina.
I know. It's wild.
Okay. I get them. They all kind of congeal to me because there's like the Baker one, and then there's Jimmy Swaggart. Benny Hinn he's the one that wore the white jacket, right?
The expensive clothing, the white jacket. My mom literally went to Israel with him, got baptized in the Jordan River. Like she was sold out for Benny Hinn. And yeah, so
my gosh. She's like a spiritual thrill seeker.
Yes, she was. Yeah, definitely. And I think like being Iranian and coming from like a country that had a lot of oppression towards women, the attraction of there being this kind of like quote unquote outgoing freedom, which I obviously have different feelings about it now, but I can understand why that was attractive to her.
Yeah.
But I do this whole comedy bit about like faking falling down from the Holy Spirit, because I definitely had experience as a child where I was really stressed out. We all had to stand in line, and Benny Hinn was coming, which he would do a thing and everyone would fall over. And I had a lot of anxiety about what if I didn't fall down. So I would fake it and I would plan the whole thing. And so there were things like that were part of my childhood, which is like, how could I not get into comedy, you know?
Right. That's a lot of material.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Such a lot of material.
I feel like he would like spin that jacket when things got wild, right? Like I feel like it became a prop.
Oh,
or
yeah.
something.
And there's like YouTube videos where they replace it with like a lightsaber and they do like the Star Wars thing.
Yeah.
And that is exactly how it was. Yeah.
Well, listen, I believe that miracles can happen however and whenever God wants. So I'm not trying to take anybody's experience away from them. I mean, whatever. It's interesting though. Like, what is your kind of grown up take on all of that?
Well, I'm a Christian, but I've been through a lot in my life. Like my mom, and she did pass away 10 years ago. And, she believed she would be healed from brain cancer. So she didn't do chemo or radiation, and then she's healed in heaven. But obviously after that happened, I had a lot of really pressing questions about what do I believe, and my upbringing and science and how all that sex with each other. So I just have a very real faith where Jesus, like I had to study and know like why he did the things he did in the stories, like what they mean and why they were written. And so I took like a seminary to study all of this, and I very much am on the path of like, I believe that Jesus was for the marginalized, the oppressed, for freedom in all capacities. Yeah. And healing, I believe, is part of that, but I think it can come in so many ways. So I'm much less attracted to anything that potentially exploits people who don't have money or have vulnerability. And not saying that was the entire intention, of course, around that, because I do believe people were healed and stuff, but I'm very much not attracted to that kind of of Christianity anymore.
Sure. And would you say like her experience was authentic to her?
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a big deal in her life, and everybody knew that.
Yeah. And really, I'd say the biggest miracle of it all is just that he has been able to resurrect his ministry again and again and again.
Oh my God. I know.
Right? Like after all of these.
It's funny. Like he's still doing it. They're all
still doing it.
I know.
Oh, my goodness. I have to like, we kind of joke that this was, God bless your mom, by the way. She obviously raised such a wonderful daughter in you, and I honor her and her experiences. But there is like a great deal of material. So I'd love to know when did you know that you were funny? Because I feel like every friend group like has that one friend where you're like, is she coming because, she just makes car rides more fun. She makes parties more fun. When did you know that you were funny? And how did you decide to turn that into like actually making money?
So I think in college, I went through a lot and started to find out more about who I was. So I think the humor side, I became more comfortable with it, the more confident I became in who I was. So I was always kind of like charismatic and funny and a social person, but I have a very strong introvert side of me. So maybe about 10 years, like 15 years ago, probably 5 years before my mom passed away. So like 15 years ago, I really was coming into my own, and everywhere I would work or be, I just kind of found the humor in anything, and I would express that. And, I never thought much beyond that. And then when I was really wrestling with what I believe in, and I started to go back to church, because we would go to all these healing ministries with my mom, and then I didn't go to church for a long time. So then when I started going again, I found everything to be very funny. And I really kind of tapped into that for myself as a healing process, but then also like, does anyone else notice this? And that's really where I think I started to think more seriously about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I would imagine there are a great deal of challenges in choosing to, it's funny. When I decided, I felt like I was supposed to write a book, and I knew that if I was going to write a book, then people might read it. And so I'm an introvert as well. And that made me really anxious. And the day before I decided to like make a post that told people I did this thing, I had a dream where, the details. When other people tell me their dreams, I start wondering what's for dinner. But it was I was trying on swimsuits, and I thought that I was in a private room, and I was trying on these swimsuits, which I mean is a nightmare, right? And then all of a sudden I heard a ding, and it was elevator doors opening, and I was wearing this aqua number that was too small, and and so there's all of these people. Now, they did not like cheer and tell me that I was, hot. They did not boo or hiss or throw things at me. They just walked on by me. They didn't notice me. And I felt like that was my anxiety telling me that like taking the step where people are going to have maybe an opinion on what you do. To me, apparently, the worst thing would have been being ignored, right? Like not this volatile feedback or this, hack it job feedback, or not this praise and awe and wonder, but instead just nothing. And so to me, what you do is so brave, because for a comedian, it's either laughing and like really kind of, turning a crowd, or nothing. It's the worst.
It is. It's so true.
It's so scary.
It is.
How have you dealt with like the anxiety around nothing?
Right. No, that's so real. Your dream is so real. I have struggled with depression and severe anxiety. I had a lot of panic attacks and stuff around this time where my mom passed, and I actually completely changed careers and started working in the mental health field because I had a passion for those who were suffering, because I understood what that was like. And I was like, and people were like, you're very compassionate, you would be great at this. But I found myself as a comedian leading comedy classes for women who were suicidal. And I loved, and I think that type of purpose in comedy made me really stop kind of caring what people thought. I definitely still do. I definitely still struggle, but my audience and why I'm doing it is so clear to me that when I do get trolled or people do come back to me, like, I'm like, you're free to not like me. That's so fine. But I I'm just going to keep going for the people that do, you know?
Oh my
And
gosh.
but it's a lot easier said than done, because I just did a comedy show here at a comedy club. And man, when I got out there, I hadn't been in a comedy club setting in a long time. And I was very aware you either bomb or you or you do well, but you kind of just have to forget that and know why you're doing it. And then,
Yeah.
you don't care so much anymore.
That is just the best answer I could have ever. Wow.
Oh.
That is so
You're making me
awesome.
feel so good about myself.
I love that so much. There's something that I can relate to that in my life. I don't know what it is. I want to think about that, but I know that feeling of, okay, it's like something you're so confident in that you feel so led that you are even called to like, maybe spiritualize it, but like, this is just what I'm supposed to be doing. And if you're not, I don't know, maybe it's like some parenting stuff, because I feel like nobody knows my kids better than I do. So like, I don't feel all that open to suggestion unless I'm like really seeking it, where I'm calling upon the village. Like now I feel, so I feel like in your work, you've kind of taken on some topics that are either like funny, weird, funny, cringe, funny, yikes, like there are these different kinds of funny, right? And so that might be pop culture or dating or politics, or what are some of the other things that you incorporate into the things that you like joking about, because you might cry otherwise.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I morphed. I absolutely morphed, because I started very much with like church culture, dating in church, and mental health. And those were my three things. And then I started to see church culture engage politics in a way that made me uncomfortable. And I kind of had to make a choice, like, and I think this is where that quote unquote calling, or whatever, we want to call it, where you kind of decide, am I going to go with the crowd, or am I going to stay true to what I really feel in my gut that I'm discerning that I want to say or do? And that was a choice I make kind of often, but really pivotal in the time where I felt, politically like, oh, I don't align with what I'm being told. So that's kind of how that started. And then from there, I really enjoyed kind of modern culture and just pop culture, modern culture, just like events that are happening. So it became like news commentary. So I love just engaging like the daily news, because there's so many things that happen, so many absurd things that happen. And then I'm like, well, let's just try to tell the news in an entertaining way, since it's so scary. And so that's kind of how that all happened. And I really love doing like news commentary, pop culture commentary, faith still, but like I'm kind of getting over, like it just is a lot. And there's a lot of people who do it now. So I'm kind of like, oh, let's do these other more fun topics. Yeah.
It's interesting, because I feel like there's the caveat, and it's like, that's kind of where the joke is. I don't know anything about anything, but like, as I think about my Christianity, it's like, well, I'm a Christian, but the kind that believes in dinosaurs, or like,
totally.
what?
Right. Yeah.
And it's like the caveat. It's like, or I'm a Republican, but what? And then you make it funny, like you take the joke somewhere else. And so if I'm going to pick which one we want to do first, but I know that you're single. So it's like, I want to be married, but what's the caveat with, yes, I want to be in a relationship, but dating is so absurd.
Dating is absurd.
Like,
that's a great
it's
topic.
absurd. I mean, this is just nuts. And you're funny. I know that I follow you on Instagram because I can't get any attention on Twitter at all. It feels like I just throw this pebble into this like giant abyss, and I'm like, hello. I mean, nothing.
Well, now there's a new app for you. They launched the Instagram version last night. I know.
Well, we'll see. I don't know. But anyways, I feel like you have a very like happening Twitter life, because I follow you on Instagram and it looks like it's your tweets. That's what the kids call them. Your tweets. Right. Jeez. So, and I am just having a blast at the ways that you make fun of dating. I I mean, we can kind of hang out here for a while because I think it's fun. But if you are in a bar, which no one's like meeting people in a bar anymore, so like, pardon my 40s, my 40-year-old self, 45-year-old self. But if you were like in a bar, who is the type of guy that has zero chance with you? Like, what's the stereotype that's just never going to happen?
I think the MAGA guy. I mean, if he's wearing like a red hat, which I'm in Nashville, so that's kind of like a thing. But also probably the guy that is the musician that says he wants to write a song about me. I have since learned that those guys, they write a lot of songs about a lot of women, and they love getting their heart broken. To write the song and go on tour while you're crying at home. And so I'm like, oh, you're a songwriter? That's so great. Let's be friends.
Yeah. See, I've been duped by that guy. I've been there. The one that has zero chance with me is like the ultimate bodybuilder that like can't put his arms down.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's not happening.
Yes. Especially, do you know, like there's like the Christian bodybuilder guy.
Oh,
like the bodybuilder guy who posts shirtless selfies with a Bible verse. That's too much for me. That's my line, I think.
I actually, on the way here to the studio, I was behind, because I thought of another one. I was behind a guy with this really souped up truck that was like really like intentionally loud. Like he adjusted the truck to be a noise pollutant. And then it's like blowing things in my face. Right. I'm like, yeah, no, that's a no. If you were to come and try to pick me up in that, which first of all, I'm pretty sure you'd like sit in the driveway and honk,
Right.
But like, that's never happening. So dating is this huge, like smoldering dumpster fire. I mean, we all kind of know that, but it's because it's just changed so much with apps and whatever. So I know the apps to me seem uninspiring, but if it's what everyone is doing, like, what are you supposed to do?
Right.
How many are you on apps? How many times have you quit and then come back? Is that a sheepish return? Like, what's going on with the apps?
I mean, I am on all the apps, but I am on them for content. So my therapist is like, Kristina, let's try to engage differently. And I'm like, well, I can't help it. If I see something that is funny, I will screenshot it. And that is my work for the day. And she's like, you're not going to meet anybody if you're just making fun of them. And I'm like, well, the right person will want to be made fun of. And so I'm working on it. But I think we all download them. We find some hope, and then it's like a sales game. It's like sales, and then you're like, oh, I'm over it. And then you delete it. And then, you go back. Now
I'm seeing a joke kind of circulate. This is going to be an old joke to you, but it was funny to me that they're all holding fish in their profile pictures.
Oh, yes, they are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's with the fish? They want to feed you? Like, what's the...
I know. It's like, I don't even know. I talked to this guy who started this new app, and it was like, it's like an app where people have to meet. Like, you can't just talk on the app and waste time. And I was like, oh, I can get behind that. And we were talking about the guys with fishes, and there is no rhyme. There is no rhyme or reason. They just, men think it's really cool that they caught these fish, and they're like, this is cool with the fish. And then it'll be like them with the dog, which we love, right? But I love the dog probably more than them, maybe. But, and then there's a photo of them with their friends, and you can't tell which one is them. And so I think like some men could use a curator. Like, you could do that. You could curate profiles for men and then help us out.
Yeah. I think I'd be really good at that. My best friend,
you'd be really good at that.
Thank you. My best friend's a lawyer, and she says that I could be a consultant to help people pick juries.
Oh,
like I know what you're thinking. The thing about people with good intuition is they can't ever be talked out of their intuition. It's like once
That's so true. I'm the same way. I'm like, nope, I knew this whole time for years.
Okay, so are you meeting people in the wild still? Like, are you just like wearing bright colors, put on something shiny, do a little dance?
Yeah.
Like,
I think I have the privilege of having an active Instagram where my brand is that I am single. So because I've branded myself as that, I get DMs and, but I don't date a lot. I'm now putting myself out there more, but I went on a date with like a single pastor. He was like the eligible single pastor. And after I went on a few dates with him, I was reminded of why I don't like dating within church.
Okay.
and it was just like a very overly spiritualized kind of thing. And so I'm trying to meet a lot more diverse people, and I meet a lot of them out in the wild. I do. I'm just trying to be more open. So that's where I'm at. Yeah. But,
did his teeth ding, or like the
right. No, but I just was like, I don't want to pray about this. I just would like to talk, or like, tell me how you feel. And I'd be like, well, the Lord. And I'm like, no, I want to know what is your emotion? Just basics, just the basics, And so Christian dating is something else. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so as far as the caveats,
yes.
So the caveats of church, because I know you are like a very faithful person. Like, you love the Lord. It's just that somehow in our Christian subculture, there's been this like slick finish put on it or something.
Yeah, totally.
that is making us feel things. So it's not that you don't want this amazing God-fearing man. It's that there's something about the slick finish that makes me feel manipulated or something.
That is exactly how I feel. That is exactly it. Yeah. You said it.
So
everywhere.
Talking about what's going on with our church subculture, there are so many people that have been either wounded or annoyed or manipulated, that there is a pendulum kind of swinging. And so, for example, you take Hillsong situation, because we have all been emotionally invested in King of Kings, in their music. I mean, it's infectious. And so then to get underneath it a little bit and see some of just the abuse that's going on at the same time, you kind of have to put this border. You have to go back and question your experience, and then that makes me angry. So did you watch the documentary?
I did. My friends were in it, actually.
Whoa.
Yeah. Janice Legata, she was Carl Lenz's assistant. So I had interviewed her about a year ago on the podcast. And then Ben with Preachers and Sneakers was on the other Hillsong documentary. And he's a very good friend of mine. And so I think over the years, I accidentally became popular in the evangelical kind of blogger scene, which is embarrassing to even say those words together. But I would just write about my experience, and other people did have these experiences, but I was like this humorous single Christian girl. And so that became a thing. And I lived in LA. I'm born in LA. And but as the more I started to get it deeper into these circles, the more I saw the corruption, manipulation, the fame, like envy, the money. And I was like, hold up, wait a minute. But to question anything and to say it out loud, you're going up against people with a lot of power and people with like a huge following, like cult-like followings, So I remember I questioned Brian Houston because I didn't like the way he was communicating to a young girl on Twitter, literally. And I said like one thing, and all these people like came kind of at me, and I was like, oh gosh, like this is hard. But I think it was like a slow unraveling. And so that made me kind of stick closer to Jesus and less to the institution of evangelicalism. But knowing, like, I've met people from all these other denominations, like Claire, and it really enlightened me to know that there are so many Christian practices and traditions, and to get out of my bubble. So the Hillsong, it's tough because I know I have close friends or family that are kind of still in it. And, I don't ever want that to become a thing that separates us. But reality is a lot of people were hurt. I'm grateful because I feel like I got to see things a lot earlier. So I'm able to navigate it now without that pain and hurt and trauma. Because I went through it, kind of like years ago. but it's a very real experience for so many people.
Yeah. And I feel like it's not even, I feel like we've been putting borders around good art made by questionable people for a really long time. Like that's not something we haven't done before. I mean, I'm thinking just off the top of my head, I'm thinking of Michael Jackson or R. Kelly or whatever. And so that's a well-worn path that we've had to walk down. And so there's part of me that's like, well, I don't want to feel like I'm supporting or endorsing some sort of abuse, because I do believe in Jesus fighting for the marginalized and the weaker party. I feel like they will always have precedent. The first shall be last and the last shall be first. And then there's this other part of me that's like, well, so we're just going to like reject everything done by sinners, because that seems what will we celebrate then, And so there's some pharisaical, tendencies in that. And so the bottom line, I think, is just that anytime you draw a line, Jesus is on the other side of it. So
And I think like a lot of people I know, I have a lot of friends here in Nashville, and everyone's just like, I don't know where to go to church. Like I left the church and I would like to be in community still. So I think like we've created alternatives through small groups and through like different community things where it may not look the same, but we're just trying to figure it out. And perhaps like some of us are interested in more smaller settings or even like other denominations. But one thing that really made me think a lot was I knew one of the young girls part of the SBC that was abused in that institution, and I crashed the SBC convention dressed as a man. I did the comedian thing. I got someone to get me an invite, which you had to get like specific invites, and that was that was like my second week here in Nashville, and I went just to advocate for her, but I tried to do it in a humorous kind of way. And long story short, it was like we got all these people to be on their side, and then they all these people came together and they got a third-party investigation approved into that abuse situation. So there's things like that where you're like, okay, there's hope, and also, we can hope for reform and perhaps, see different things come through, but everyone's on a different path. So we can support all the different ways,
Oh my gosh. Is this documented? Do I just need to do a deep dive and to find all of this?
Yeah. I mean,
oh my gosh.
That I did that, but it was, I was like, really, I'm like, this is what I'm doing. And
I love you even more than I thought I did. Oh my gosh, that's so great. Okay, so lighter topic. Reality TV.
I love it so much. Love it so much.
I know. Why do we love it so much? What's going on?
I feel like because we're dealing with all these heavy things, we're like, I just need something that doesn't require any thought. Like, and all of my friends are very into it. My friends' husbands who like run major companies, they'll text about Vanderpump Rules or something, Housewives, or what. I'm like, we just need this outlet.
I think so. This is different for different people, but I personally have always had a very shallow rock bottom. Like I don't need to learn lessons very deeply. Like I can watch someone else drink too much and dance on a table and then promptly throw up to be like, oh, well, I'm never doing that. Like I'm just not going to be that girl. So I feel reality TV for me is, man, being in the mob seems really risky. But I will watch some Mob Wives.
Yes, it's so true. You just got to pick one and then you just roll with it. And that is like, the obsession.
You gotta dip a little toe, just a toe into the Kardashians' lives, into whatever. Okay, what's your favorite?
I mean, I was a Vanderpump Rules watcher from like 10 years ago with my college friends. And so when all this stuff happened, like recently, we were like, okay, this is our time to shine. Like, so I definitely love that. And I love the New York Housewives because it's just, I love like, they're just crazy. And the New York thing adds to it. And then I used to watch Southern Charm, and that's about Charleston kind of elite people. And my friends were like, it's not shocking that you moved to Nashville. I'm like, well, I just lived a different life. So Yeah. And then, I mean, this is embarrassing. I don't actually watch a ton of TV, but it sounds like I
Yeah.
do, but we just have one dedicated evening. But I then got into Selling Sunset and I was like looking at all these houses and these pretty
Yeah.
people and was like, oh, that $2 million house, that's not even nice, And you're like,
Yeah.
I could never, but here I am acting like, oh yeah, I can afford that.
Yeah. We do. We totally become experts.
Yes.
Okay. So for social media, I feel like, I don't know. Facebook has kind of morphed into this. This is where I give you my lengthy opinion and share my articles.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so if Facebook is for the opinionated, I feel like Instagram is for the beautiful. I feel like TikTok is for the funny, and I feel like Twitter is for the mean. I don't know.
No, really. It used to be for like the intellectual or like the journalists, the writers, but then it just became really mean. And that's what everyone's saying about this new thing that launched. It doesn't feel mean. Like people are just funny, nice. So because it's still Instagram-y a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay.
It's like Twitter. It's to me, I can't really even understand it because I feel like y'all's kind of speaking code. It's like this thread of sarcasm where it's like, it makes me feel old because I can't tell what's real and what's not.
Right.
I'm like,
it's just like a bunch of jaded people. It's not healthy. I definitely don't. Also, your TikTok is so funny, and I love TikTok because I'm like, people are very funny and they're very like, I don't know how they come up with this stuff.
Yeah.
But it's great.
Well, I feel like that's what quarantine did for us, though. It let us know that there's a lot of talent sitting around in cubicles. And when we were home, it was like we had an outlet and permission to start making our own material. And I feel like that's what TikTok did, is it said, no, we get to decide who we want to see more of. It's not just the latest and greatest out of Hollywood. What's your favorite platform? What do you love the most?
Right now, I love TikTok. I'm not like big on there. Like I love just like watching it, and I love it. Just caters to what you like, and so I just or I'll watch like educational things about like cleaning or I don't know. It just like really caters to you. So I really like that. And it's like ADHD TV,
Totally. My algorithm knows me better than I do. It's like
alarming. Yes, I need a man to know me the way TikTok's algorithm does. That's all I'm looking for in life.
I'm like, how did you know? I would love ex-Mormon drama.
Right. It's so true. I watched one Taylor Swift video and then I was getting just like every show and every Taylor Swift moment. I'm like, okay, I need to like something else so that it thinks that I like. It's just.
Oh, right. Yeah. I know. Get me off of this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you a Swiftie?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, dare I say anything other? I wasn't like huge because I didn't like listen to her a ton. But then when I saw how crazy popular she was, especially at the Eras tour, I was like, let me deep dive. So I watched the documentary and then I was like, oh, I really like her. And then everyone was like, you need to listen to all her lyrics. So I followed all the directives. And then I was like, okay, I am a Swiftie. I just needed to make sure I did my research. Yeah.
Okay. I am just like you, and I've never heard this answer before. To me, and maybe I was kind of basing some like current opinions off of some old work, maybe when she was like 15, right? But like, it was maybe a little too old. I don't. It was a little too bubblegum for me at the start, and then I'm like, oh, turns out she's a boss, and I'm here for it. And all the Eras tour, it's like people are going and like getting healing. How about we just bring this right back around to Benny Hinn?
Benny Hinn. It's so true. And it's crazy. I mean, in Nashville, there were just like mobs of people on the bridges or all, you see all these videos and I'm like, I must have missed something,
Right.
So that's why I was like, let me just do my Reddit thread research. And all right.
So what do you have coming up? What are some things going on for you? How can we root for you?
Oh,
what are you excited about?
Well, I could definitely relate to your book thing. I have been writing a book for a long time. I like threw out one copy because it's been like a 10-year journey, and I am really hoping to get published this year. next year. So look out for that, because I'm really excited, because it's like everything, and then I have shows coming up, but I'm excited I'm kind of rethinking what I want to put out there in the world and how I want to do it and integrate the mental health side of things with the comedy. But I'm an in-person, I love in-person things. So I'm trying to transfer everything to be more in person and across the US. So we'll see. Just follow me and come along for the ride.
I love it. Do you have any heroes? Do you have any mentors in the business?
No, but this is a good question that I should have a good answer for.
Yeah.
I read a lot of books, so I love a lot of authors.
Yeah.
And I need to read your book. Do you have a book you've had?
Well, it's from a long time ago, but this was a while ago. It wasn't I mean, it has a publisher, but it was just something way back when.
I know how hard it is and how
in the blog world.
So I would love you. Yeah. I just honor people who've actually, you did it, that's huge.
It was way back when I had a blog, and I think because 40 people followed it, I thought, well, I should really probably get some of this down.
I was entirely like that.
But I did. It's one of those things that when I go back and reread it, you know how when you keep a journal and you look back on it, you're like, oh my gosh, burn it now. Like, it's so melodramatic.
Please,
you're like,
nobody read mine. Yeah.
Please. Like, you put your best friend on that. You're like, should something happen to me, burn all this stuff. Not even because it's anything, salacious. It's just because it's that cringy. So anyways, when I go back and look at it, I still like it. And so that to me is a sign of success. Like, did it sell a ton of copies? No, but it is something that I still love. So
you didn't want to pull it off the shelves. And I think that had I published something a long time ago or while I would have wanted that. So that's huge.
Okay. So where do we follow? Tell us your handles.
Yes. I'm Edgy Kristina Hart, Hart. The edgy started off as a joke. Just, I've thought a lot about changing it, but I'm like, it was just a joke, and now it's kind of funny. Because I was like, oh, I think women can be pastors. And then all these guys were like, you are so edgy. And I was like, you know what? I am Edgy Kristina Hart. And I kept it. So you can find me on all the platforms with that handle.
I love it. Well, my opinion matters zero, but I like Edgy Kristina Hart. I think Edgy Kristina is here to stay. I love it so much. You are such a delight. I'm a fan, and I cannot wait to just say your name. I have somebody that I'd like to introduce you to, but I am cheering for you from afar and hopefully in person as soon as possible.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I would love that.
I'm grateful for Claire for bringing us together, and I'm so happy you said yes to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I love it.
Taylor Schroll.
Hey, still not Kristen.
No, indeed. Okay, so I apparently am a wannabe comedian. I actually really do admire someone who is on.
Did anybody else just hear the Britney Spears song in their head?
What?
Or is it Britney Spears or Spice Girls?
If you want to be my...
Wanna be. Spice Girls. It's even older than Britney.
So someone asked me who Ice Spice was the other day, and I was like, I know exactly who Ice Spice is, and I started singing that song and was promptly embarrassed. Okay.
I'm either proud or disappointed in the two of us.
Okay, so I really admire somebody who can be on the spot funny. I just think it's such an awesome quality. My humor kind of takes some planning. I mean, if I am funny on the spot, it's usually by accident, but I love
at your
that.
Expense.
And maybe, but I interview a lot of comedians on the show, and I always want to ask this question, and I've never gotten to ask it. And so you're close. You're close. Here we go. Okay, I have a question. So on TikTok, we see videos of stand-up comedy performances, and it's usually someone responding to a heckler. And so a lot of people are kind of lamenting this, right? Because it's like, oh, great. People are going to think that this is how we go and enjoy comedy. Mm-hmm. And it's not. Like, the heckler is being rude. However, because they're saying, put the attention on me, right? And so that's just a bad way to be an audience member. However, it does allow a little glimpse into the skill of the comedian, right? And there's something like kind of tantalizing to the rest of the audience that's like, oh, this is unscripted. This is an unscripted moment. So real question, do stand-up comedians enjoy a good heckler? Do they invite the experience? Is that planned or not?
I think some of them are planned. I think for the most part, it's not planned. But I'm a big fan of comedy, and I was just listening to Mike Birbiglia, who I just talked to you about because he had a TikTok song. But they were talking about people dealing with hecklers and how it literally this trend. It was an older comedian, as Nate Bargatze too, talking to younger comedians about how a lot of the younger comedians are, because these TikTok videos are blowing up of people having these funny interactions with hecklers. But they were like, that's fine and good. But the older comedians were like, that's not an act. Like you said it's a skill, but it's a different skill than stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
It's like, it's one of those things where like how do people figure out they're funny? It's because they make their friends laugh. And like a lot of times it's like, I was the person that was making my friends laugh, but it's like, I don't have a stand-up act. Yeah. I can't go up on stage for 10 minutes and it's a different skill. So it was just really interesting that I just heard about it, of like other comedians being like Matt Rife. I don't know if you've seen Matt Rife. He's the most popular comedian right now, specifically for how funny he is in like on the spot. And he's going on tour for the first time, like right now, like because of his TikTok fame, got a comedy tour, and people are like, how's this going to go?
Yeah.
Because it's going to be big crowds, and hopefully he has a skill. I like him a lot. It would be great. But some people are like wondering, is he a comedian, or is he just like funny on the spot?
So one is a planned performance. Like, this is a performance. This is an art. And the other one is you would be better at dealing with a heckler than you would at a performance.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So interesting. Fascinating. Well, I wish I would have asked Kristina that. She's delightful.
Probably would have gotten a better answer.
Well, go follow Kristina.
Okay. Bye.
I am so, so grateful for you, listener. If you liked this episode, could you please do me a favor and hit subscribe and leave a review? It really helps the show grow, and I would be so appreciative. Thank you so much to our guests who share their gifts so generously with us, and a special thank you to Taylor Schroll, who does so much behind the scenes to make the show great. If it weren't for him, I would still be in my closet with my iPhone. You can follow along at Forte Catholic as well. That's Taylor's show where I show up now and again. And to keep up more regularly, please follow along on Instagram at Allison M. Sully or TikTok at Sullivan Family TikTok. See you next week.
Today's show was a production of Allison Sullivan in conjunction with the Forte Catholic Podcast Network. For more great Catholic podcasts, head on over to fortecatholic.com/podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts.